And now on to taking a look at VRACore. VRACore was originally developed by the Visual Resources Association. That's where the VRA comes from. And the Visual Resources Association is a professional association for um, uh, visual resources librarians, originally slide librarians, people who are the curators and managers of digital visual resources, originally slides, now usually digital images that are used for teaching art and art history, very often in academic libraries. And because VRACore was developed by slide librarians, in earlier versions of VRACore, the one-to-one principle was not necessarily followed, because the idea is that, well, you have a slide that is a reproduction of a Leonardo da Vinci painting, and it's actually from an art history textbook, on a particular page in an art history textbook. And all that information is kind of useful to you, and you might kind of want to keep it together. And so in initial versions of VRACore, the one-to-one principle wasn't adhered to. You were allowed to put descriptions of different versions of the same image all into one description. If you look at some of the FAQs or previous versions of VRACore, you'll find some explanation of that, of the history of the scheme, and it's also in the textbook. Since 2010, if we scroll down a little bit here, you can see that the standard is now being maintained by Library of Congress, the Network Development and MARC Standards Office. And if you click here or in the text, here is the VRACore schema, documentation, user guides, the same kind of information you will also find at the Library of Congress MARC Standards Office for mods. However, the examples, the projects, FAQs, presentations, they are still at VRA's website that I'm pointing to on this slide, and we can just go on this image and we can just go back to it. And actually what I wanted to point out was some of the cataloging examples that are here at the VRA website and also the implementation registry. So if we look at the cataloging examples, they have a nice collection. You can take a look at how VRACore is used for different types of visual resources. And the one I just wanted to show you quickly is this didactic materials and cultural documentation. And if this example with the pots is different works in one view, the kind of thing you might have if you took a picture of ceramics in a vitrine in a museum. Lots of museums have things like that. This is related works in one view. And you can see here, and they've highlighted some of the interesting parts of this record, that what we have here is it's a portrait of Walter Cronkite, and it is a painting that was done by Robert Remsen Vickery, and it's actually in the National Portrait Gallery in Washington, D.C. But it was also used as this Time magazine cover when I think Uncle Walter was Man of the Year, or here he was the most trusted man in America. And so you can scroll through, and they've highlighted the parts of the description that refer to one or other of these images. Primarily, this is a record for the original painting itself, and they've kind of inserted the Time magazine cover. You can also look at the XML for this VRA, and we have something much like we were looking at for mods. I can close up the whole description. You can see it opens up with a VRA, and here's where VRA lives. and it closes with a close VRA tag. But if I open it up, and you can see some of the main elements are work ID, image ID, and the elements are nested. So, but again, you can scroll through the XML and open and close the elements to see how they work for this VRA example. If we go back to the main page, or go back a little bit, I also wanted to show you the implementation registry. As you can see from the description, VRA Core Implementation Registry is descriptions of collections that use VRA Core, mostly that use VRA Core 4.0, and not very many. And if you start looking around, you find, and I think the textbook mentions this as well, that there are a lot of collections that don't literally use VRA Core, but they use the principles of VRA Core. For example, VIA, V-I-A, and I'll put a link on the course page with these demos. VIA, Visual Image Access, is the catalog of the visual image resources at Harvard. It doesn't literally use VRA Core, but it uses VRA Core principles. If you start looking at these implementers, we can start scrolling down through. There's a big table, and they talk about how they use VRA Core, if they adhere to one-to-one, what other software they use, and you can see that a number of them use Luna Insight, which is a digital asset management system similar to Content DM, which I believe many of you have heard of. And I just wanted to take a quick look. If we go to this Cornell ornithology art collection, and we take a look at the publicly accessible portion of the collection, and you can see it's a nice display. There's different categories. You can browse through them. These are cardinals. But what I really wanted to show you is the advanced search. If you click on advanced search and look at the fields, this gives you a little hint as to the kinds of elements that they use, and some of these were the ones that we were seeing when we were looking at the XML for the VRA Core. So you can see this is a list of their fields that they're using, and you can see the similarities to VRA Core.